Running multiple containers can get complicated very fast. Networks, volumes, port mappings, environment variables, whatnot. But there's a good news. You can manage all of this with a single file, single YAML file, and with a single command, docker compose up. Yeah, that's where Docker Compose comes in. Namaste. Welcome to this final video in our beginner Docker series. Let's learn Docker Compose from scratch. Let's get started. When you're working with applications that rely on multiple services like front-end, back-end, database, or 10 other services, it becomes a real hassle to spin up a new container for each service with those long Docker run commands with n number of parameters. Now this becomes a real hassle. Now to solve this hassle or to solve this problem, we have Docker Compose. Now Docker Compose brings everything into a single file, a single YAML file, and into a single command, like that is docker compose up. We'll see. And don't worry if you haven't worked on the YAML files. It is quite simple. It's quite human readable. We'll see a little bit of intro to that as well. Now let me tell you one more thing. Docker Compose is kind of infrastructure as a code. It's not a full-fledged infrastructure as a code like Terraforms or any others like Bicep or something of that sort. But it is good enough to bring up containers, networks, volumes, which are still infrastructure. And since you'll be writing everything into a YAML file, you can do everything that you can do with a code, like version control it, make changes and just run the command. You don't have to do manual things. You don't have to manually bring up the infrastructure. It is quite declarative, it is easy to read, and it is kind of perfect to manage multi-containers, as in multi-container apps. So let's see how it looks on our code. So let's create a file. The name should be compose.yaml. Now this name is kind of important. Like you can of course name it anything, but then you will have to say docker compose up hyphen f and then mention the file name. But if we just write it compose.yaml or docker hyphen compose.yaml, then you'll just have to say it docker compose up, as in just one single command, easy command. Now make sure that it should be in a root directory like I'm mentioning over here. Okay, so what we'll do is we ran 2 containers in our previous videos. So in this file, we'll mention those 2 containers and we'll try to manage it. So before that, if YAML is something new to you, let me explain you a few things, very easy things. Now YAML is mostly indentation based, as in if I say fruits, then fruit will become a top element in our YAML file, then put a colon here, then enter. Now to show nesting in YAML, we use indentation. So indentation is a huge thing in YAML. So let's say like this. Now, so ignore the IntelliSense that is shown. Now, since a fruits is a list, we will give a dash here. In YAML, it is a dash for a list. So let's say apple, orange, then banana, space. Remember, space is everything here. Let's not go too far with grapes. Now for a list, it should be like this. Okay, as in the top element name is there, then each items are mentioned. Like if you are familiar with Python, there as well space indentation plays a huge role. But of course you will write it like this in Python, whatever the list is, right? So similarly here it becomes in this way. Now this is a list, and for dictionary what you'll do is let's say something like vegetable, not S, and let's call it as a dictionary. Now for this dictionary we can say name carrot. Now I am creating a dictionary of dictionary here, like key value pair. Okay, and this is how it is. This is a list and this is a dictionary. Of course, you can directly say like this as well, orange. Okay, so this is a dictionary key value pair. So these are the two important things that you have to remember while working with YAML files. Now let's start writing our compose.yaml file. Now for reference, I will be taking the command that we used in our previous videos. So I'm just copying it and I'll keep it here just so that we know what we are trying to convert. Now since this is a latest version, so we'll directly start with services. Before this, we had to write version as a compulsory key element. As of now, it is deprecated, so we will directly start with services. So in our case, we have two services. So you see, this is a dictionary. We are directly writing here. This dictionary will contain more dictionaries, so we will directly write here two things here. Now we want, remember, I'm putting two spaces here. So we'll write app and then we will write MySQL. So we want two services as in two containers. One is app container and the other one is MySQL container. We'll just be converting all of this into YAML style. So for app, let's continue with that. Remember inside services, there is app and MySQL. As in, this is the nesting. Double space or tab is the nesting. Now here, let's first mention the image here. Let's write image and node 18. Fine, I'm just writing it here. Then let's write the command. Now command is this, directly copy paste it. Remember to give space, otherwise YAML will keep shouting that it's a syntax error. Now these two things are done. Let's go to first line. Now we'll have to mention the ports here, port mapping here. So for ports, we can directly write here ports. Now ports is a list. Now since we are using Visual Studio Code, it is helping us to directly write everything without thinking. But here, remember ports is a list, so that's why a dash at the start. So let's mention same thing, 8000, like we did in our previous videos. This is fine, this localhost, ignoring that. The ports is done. Now, after ports, we have this working directory, and then we will be creating a volume here. Working directory, we can directly write like this, working directory, and then the good thing is you can directly say /app, like we did it over here. Now you must be thinking, how do I know all of this, or how do we know all of this? So of course, you'll have to go to Docker documentation and then search for Docker compose commands. Just go here and then you will see all of the commands. What command you want to use. You can see there are a lot of commands. And if you want to check what things we have to write inside the command, we'll have to search for Docker compose keys. Spelling mistake, Docker file reference. So if you go here, we can see top level element, then service level element. So top level element as in name, services, etc. Then service level element as in what all things can be used inside services, like annotation, CPUs, blah blah. Then since there are different things that Docker can create, network, volume, etc. So what all things can be used inside that is also mentioned. All the attributes are mentioned, so you can check that. For now, since this is just a getting started video, we will skip all of that and we'll just focus on things that we want to use for application. So we have mentioned working directory. Now let's mention volume. Now this volume is bind mount. So we will be mentioning it this way. In MySQL, we'll be making a name volume. So that will be a slightly different way. So let's write volumes. And good thing here is, instead of writing like this, as in mentioning the present working directory, we can directly say dot here, dot slash, and then map it with current directory in our container. As in, since we are mentioning working directory as app, we'll mention it like this. So the final thing is just the environment variables. Let's mention that. Enter. Remember, these are all at this level, as in inside app. So remember, take care of the indentation here. Okay, let's quickly copy this. Let's quickly copy this from here. Be sure to check your indentation. Okay, so this is done. Our app command is totally converted into YAMLize or compose style thing. Let's close it, as in this, hide it for now. Now let's work on MySQL part. Now let's do the same thing, copy this command so that you don't have to, we can directly see the comparison. So in short, okay, so first same step, we will first create, or we will first write about image, what image we want. We are using here 8.0, so we will do the same thing. We can just copy paste image. So after image is mentioned, we will create, or we'll write about volumes. So now since we are using name volume here, there's a slightly different way of creating that. As in, here we could directly write in a single line saying -v and then volume name, and then where to map it inside the container. But here we'll have to mention it at two places. So first is similar, we'll just write volumes, and then this thing, it's already coming in the IntelliSense. Just copy paste this thing here, and also at the service level. So remember, at the service level, as in at the top level, we will be mentioning here volumes, and here we will just mention the same name. Now whoever is familiar here with Kubernetes might find this similar, because we do this in the same manifest file as well. So just mention it like this, and then moving on. After volumes, we now just have environment variables. So we have covered image, name is already done. Network we don't have to specify, it will directly create a network. So that's the magic of Docker Compose. And then we just have these two things. So let's write environment variables. Let's copy that. Make sure the indentation is correct. Okay, let's close this. Now we are done with the Docker Compose file. Let me expand it. This is for the app. This is our app service. This is our MySQL service, and this is the volume that we are attaching it to our MySQL. Okay, now the magic. Now before that, you make sure that you are in the right working directory where the compose is. The compose.yaml is in this directory. Okay, so we will just be doing docker compose up, and everything will be up and running with just like that. So docker compose up, and of course we'll have to run it in detached mode. So -d, enter, done. Now you see, we did not mention about creating a network. It created on its own, as in Docker Compose for a given application stack creates a network. So like we did in previous videos, where we had to create a network and then we have to give that network name to our MySQL container, so that both are in the same network. We don't have to do any such thing here. So a network is created and both are in the same network. Volume is also created. Now the naming convention is a little bit interesting. Getting started up, it is the name of the folder, current working folder that we are in, and then the names, as in the container names, will be based on whatever we are providing name here, and then -1. So it assumes that we'll be creating, like, I don't know, multiple containers. Okay, this is done. Let's see docker compose ps. So let's see if our, so the commands are like this: docker compose up, then docker compose ps. Now by now you're quite familiar with ps commands. So it just lists the containers. Now docker compose ps will list all the containers running through docker compose. So we see MySQL and Node, and our and our application will run at 3000, port number 3000 on our localhost. So let's see that. Let's see localhost 3000, and our application is running. Now for more commands, it is simple. Like if you want to bring down the application, not delete the whole containers, all the containers, just docker compose stop. So it will stop both the containers. Now if we refresh it, it should not work. It's down. Now to bring it up, it is down. Now to bring it up, just say, let me clear the screen. Okay. We'll just say docker compose start. Okay, now both the containers are up and running. Now this should work. Okay, this is running. Now to check what is happening inside the containers, you can use docker logs command, as in docker compose same logs -f that we saw, as in just the compose. Now you see what is happening in both the containers. For a single container or for each container, you can just mention the container name like this. This is for app, and then for MySQL, like this. What is happening inside MySQL? Okay, so these were all the commands with respect to docker compose. So nothing like complicated here. Let me clear the screen. And if you have so if you're running it on the Windows one, as in with the Docker desktop one, you can see, if you go to containers, it creates as in on the dashboard, it has like a folder kind of thing, wherein it is called as compose stack here, wherein both the containers are inside the main stack of getting started. The whole name is there, application stack name is there. So very interesting, right? So now let's bring down the application. Very simple, docker compose. So for up we did up, and for bringing it down we will put it down. Now this docker compose down will delete everything except the volumes created. So you'll see. Now see, it deleted the network and both the containers, but volumes are still running. So how we will check it is docker volumes ls. Sorry, my mistake, volume ls. So you see our volume is still there. So that we have to remove manually. You can do it in this step as well, docker compose down as well, by giving -volume as a parameter, as an option, sorry, not parameter. So let's delete this docker volume rm, getting started, and I think we are good. Docker volume ls, all clear. Docker ps -a, let's just confirm it. Nothing is there, everything is brought down. So yeah, that's it, I think. Now Docker Compose makes it easier to share, scale and manage multi-container environments, but mostly people will use it in dev and test. Of course, for production environment, you will not be using Docker Components. There are much better solutions. Of course, you will be looking towards Kubernetes for this kind of huge infrastructure, or where you want a huge number of containers running. That scalability is needed. If you have seen all the videos, by now you must have understood all the basics related to Docker. I will try to bring up more beginner friendly series with other DevOps tools like Kubernetes, Terraforms in future. Till then, keep learning. Bye bye.